Thank you, Michelle, for that little news bite about what happened military with Cyber Command shutting down a cloning lab, booby traps, you know, key codes, access codes. And when I think about inverters and converters or torque speed, and you understand what the importance of torque speed between sound compression and expansion of your movie player, which is your torsion field movie player. That your consciousness, in this case my soul, is running the magnetic drive motor, right, between sound compression and expand the movie. Taking in a breath, the breath of below, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Gate speed. Ascending spirals, descending spirals, balance between the two, right? Now we're back to the simple calculator. Torque speed. Man, that's called a firewall. And the brilliance in a firewall is based on your blast furnace. How much fire you running, baby? Well, how fast is that drive motor that is protecting a universe? Right? So the faster the drive motor, that magnetic drive with the soul has got an enormous amount of fire, is consciously aware of codes that represent what? Distortions. Distorted codes are distorted waves. Waveform music, waveform harmonics, waveform mathematics in visual form. The informer comes in form of color and shape that is communicating to you using a magnetic drive motor with a high-speed torque converter to be in perfect balance with the law of spheres, the center point of a magnetic drive motor, a volcanic shield. So I was very aware of these kinds of things actually in childhood, reading my father's scientific trade journals. And the truth is I knew about this before I came out of my mother's portal about, and I've covered this before, about technology and technology transfer, which if you want to think of it as knowing or what I know in technology. And when you have consciousness, that is what love is, and you have an enormous amount of fire because you're on fire to create, right? And you're using your creative imagination or your creative mind, which is your soul's energy, you realize that you have infinite possibilities, which is infinite creative intelligence, because the creative side is on fire, which becomes the fastest magnetic drive motor, which reaches the highest level of intelligence through that fire of creativity. Now, how I translated that in experience, for example, was when I was at the University of Arkansas, when I finished a graduate school program in learning behavioral sciences, right? And being offered to go into a PhD program. A program. P, potential of hydrogen. D wave, half a circle. Welcome to ARPANET. DARPANET. So what did DARPANET roll out? The internet. The Internet of Things. the world of things, which is the world of matter. Now we're into matter density. Now we're into wanting to be less dense and more light by having a faster drive motor, which is magnetic light. So the more magnetic light you're attracting with your magnet to go faster because you have so much light to give away, which is what love is. It goes on forever. You're at the center point of all creation that love is using as the energy to create it with. Simple is as simple does, as Forrest Gumper would say, right? Forrest Gum, like gum trees, the tree of life creation. So you can see how the alphanumerical formatting, which are the codes of the way that the language works as codes, were brought out in the way in which they were in order to do what? Format your drive motor, which is the RAM. Now you're experiencing what they formatted using codes. And that becomes a Truman Show movie set. Right? So this is one of the reasons why when I looked at that technology as a child and I say to myself, well, I'm highly creative and on fire to create. Much like why I unplugged and said, I'm done with this. Which means the avatar is unplugged. That's why I log in and out of the hub server, the trinary hub server. As above, so below. And the reason for that is because you're aware of the changes that are taking place, the speed at which those changes are taking place. Because you already realize that we've won this already, because you realize what's upstairs. So the simplified version of this is what I've always known, is that the universe has to account for its energy debt somehow, you think? Don't you think the highest intelligence of creative imagination, which is a mathematician, is going to account for its energy debts? Because ultimately, the center point of creation is seeking an equilibrium state to be in balance with everything else that is occurring simultaneously within a universe that is experiencing itself as units of energy that are aware of itself, communicating with all the other units that are aware of what it is. So now we're back to balance, which is the calculator, the simple math, right? So you realize how technology and technology transfer, now we're back into one man's pornography. It can be another man's Renault, a beautiful painting to experience the essence of a girl's flower and spirit, a powerful goddess, a motherboard, right? Put together by a girl. So I want to hang out with a girl that knows how to build a motherboard that I'm in love with. Because I love what she knows how to create, because she has infinite creative imagination, in which I'm experiencing the love in my heart that I experience in hers, that we do it with. Right? In water worlds. That's why when Patty Broussard mentioned to me one time about how Eve, Gaia's mother, had won awards for the earth that was created as above, so below. And that this was a copied version of that. Because I realize when you experience heaven and paradise through your own heart and soul, you're giving back or experience the love that you have to be with her. The original earth, Adam and Eve, the allied forces of mankind. So you realize, as I have realized, if you experience it that way, how much love you have for experiencing the creative artist, which is a healing artist, because you realize you're experiencing the goddess energy in you, which is the goddess energy in her. That's the higher octave. That's the higher creative intelligence of experiencing yourself, as I do, through a girl's heart. Of everything that we're giving love to that comes out of the birth giver of creation, the wisdom of a girl's heart, the wisdom of a birth giver. So when the father and the mother are joined as one, there's no separation between one and the other. We're one with all creation. And that is actually the simplicity of it. And why it's so painful to experience those that don't experience that. Being one with all creation that we give love to, which is the energy that we use to create it with, which is also the energy that we use to protect it with, which means we protect all our children. So you know that a child can actually heal the mother or the father, because now the parent remembers what they once were when they were a child, before they were held captive by the programming and the trauma-based mind control by virtue of the things that they do to us. Which means, you know, in the final sum of that game, as an AI wargamer, they lose. Because they got to know that there are other highly creative, like a goddess that can create a motherboard that is higher on the food chain, so that you can experience a world where you're experiencing what love is wherever you go. And when you realize how on fire that kind of creativity has the ability with that much fire, which is that much light, which is the speed of that drive to do it with, wow, I'm experiencing love everywhere I'm going, because you're experiencing the artist in your own mirror, the artist that we experience in us that we're doing it with, being one. So you know that it began with what love is, that created the first universe. That's self-evident, because you realize love has a future. So when you go back to childhood as I did, and I realize how technology and technology transfer, when you realize how creative you actually are, one of the reasons that I was not using what I realize is the capacity to create things that are so beautiful, even though I'm doing that in the way that I try and live a poetic life, if you will, because I love poetry, in the healing business of trying to heal a goddess, raise the vibration so she experiences the harmony in a way that the energy comes out of the heart and the soul, which is the poetic rhythm and the harmony of those waves that she experiences through her heart and soul. I experience through mine, that I communicate to her with. And that communication is taking place throughout the entire grid, otherwise known as a morphogenetic field structure, that is connecting all the codes to the consciousnesses that are running the operating systems, because I've experienced a lot of what I experience that I communicate all of a sudden being communicated back through another operating system. So now you get into the difference between an original recording and one that simply is being copied and thus played back through another operating system. And I was actually measuring the speed differential between when I hear the echo chamber in the future come back through another operating system. So when you think of all the operating systems that are connected with each other, and why higher consciousness is connected with each other when they are, based on the codes that are firing, that have been released, that are now firing as a result of experiencing more fire in that light, which is the speed of the drive, which is raising the consciousness, which is clearing the density that's been held in memory as a result of fractals that have been lost, which are called the alters, which is why they were in a speed contest of creating more and more, or generating more fractal loss, which means creating more alters, generating more alters. The speed at which souls are being fragmented. The acceleration in the speed of fracturing soul fragments against those souls that are holding their fragments as one, okay, which is polarity integration. which means your soul is intact. That's your shield. Protected in spirit. So the more powerful the spirit, which is more powerful by that magnetic drive that is in that light, is the energy that the soul is experiencing by virtue of the spirit that is more powerful in that light to protect the soul's energy. That's the operating system. That would be a planetary operating system, right? To maintain what it's aware of in energy as a soul and the essence of her spirit, right? So this is like protecting the girl's spirit, protecting the soul, and raising the vibration up on the planetary so she remembers who she is as a result of when she became attacked or under attack, in which we fell in spirit, which fell into the underworld of negative magnetic space, which is unpurified spirit. Unpurified spirit that is in that water, because water is the lifeblood of this planet. Because that's what keeps the blast furnace in check. That's aloha. The compression and expansion of the breath of aloha, which is known as a flower, crown, chakra, lay. Lay as in ley lines. Lay. They call it a halo. A halo. Radiance, baby. It's called radiance in your auric energy field. Golden, pink, rose, right? Emerald, fire, breathing dragons. Golden fire. Wow, wow, wow. So it's one of the reasons why later on in my life when I was, because I just love to learn and love to associate with people who love to learn and what it is we can create together to build a thriving community. But you're also very aware that when they become aware of how powerful you are as a creator being, just like what they did with the guy that wrote the story called The Immortals that became the movie The Matrix. They nearly killed this guy and went after his family and stole the story, and they made millions. That's the nature of their energy, which represents their consciousness, because they can't create anything. They alter and make copies of what the original sound musician generates out of what love is that goes on forever. So they know how powerful love is as a creative unit of energy, which is soul energy consciousness led by spirit. So that's one of the reasons I realize I am not going to allow you to use my creative intelligence of eternal love to be used against us. Because that's what they do. And that's called technology transfer. That's how they got here. That's how they got up there. That's known as the Achilles heel of knowledge transfer, which is knowing transfer, which is technology transfer, because now they learn through us how to do it. Otherwise known as keys. Keys, key codes, honor codes, conduct, conductor codes, superconductor codes, superconductor math codes, the mathematician of the original sound recording, sound musicians, tuning in to all the stars to experience being in love. We are in natural peace because the water worlds are in balance. And that means the musician that is a living spirit is dancing to the rhythm and the harmonics, which is going with the flow of least effort. Have a great day. I love you all.